Invite.
Hi, everybody. I just went live on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to our weekly pet roundup.
Okay,
Hi. How is everybody?
I know. So, we have the same shirt on.
Do we really?
Yeah. We're doing
oh my gosh, so funny. You have the gray one.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is not sponsored by CBD Dog Health, though it definitely could be. Angela, let's talk. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. We both love CBD Dog Health products, and they gave us an amazing t-shirt at Super Zoo, and that's why we are both representing today. Unplanned, but fantastic nonetheless.
I think I have 4.
This is the only one I have, so I'm excited that we coincided today. It's so soft and so comfy that I could not, I was like, I don't feel like wearing real clothes.
It's the softest. I'm hearing myself.
It might be me. Hold on. It's definitely me. It's always me. It's always me. Instagram, why do you do this to me?
They are, Jay, the comfiest shirts ever. I just want to live in them.
Oh, hi, Jay.
We are, so, okay. Forbes put out a story, a post.
It's an article based on research, actually, which is the funniest part.
It is. And they ranked the states based on how responsible dog owners are. And so you originally, hey everybody, you had originally texted me a reel that Dr. Adam Christman had done about the article. And so if you're not familiar with Dr. Adam Christman, he is, I believe, a conventional veterinarian. I know he's on the East Coast. I want to say maybe Florida. I can't
He's
remember
great.
exactly.
I really like following him. I think he's great. That's why I found out about this, because I follow him.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of reporting and kind of celebrating the results for the states that ranked the highest.
Yes. Well, I mean, he's great he's great for social media. He is amazing on social media. But the first thing I thought, first of all, when I watched his reel, he used the word comply when he was talking about pet parents. And that for me was like, we're done. We're done using the word comply. Got me. And then finding the Forbes article to see what was actually going on, it was like, I get it. It is all about complying with standards in conventional veterinary medicine, basically.
Yes. Yeah, Jessica's not super compliant. So I feel like we should say that first and foremost. And if anybody knows me, then they know that goes without saying over here. I am not compliant. I'm not compliant in most cases. I am a rule follower, like a law follower, because
it makes sense.
Yes. I absolutely, I've never broken a law. I would not break a law, even if it was like the right thing to do at the moment without really thinking about it. So I take laws very seriously. And I think that this veterinarian obviously is that kind of person where it's like, if the AVMA says, then I do, right? And so we're not veterinarians first and foremost. So we're not held to the standards of an organization that basically, allows us to work. We're not licensed in our states where we're, held to some standards to be able to make our living. So it gives us a little bit of freedom to actually share what we believe. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, rightfully so, will protect their license and their ability to make a living, their livelihood, by complying. So no hate on any veterinarian who's doing what the AVMA recommends or what their state requires, of course. But what was most concerning to me was not the fact that it was compliance, it was the word responsible.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, the word responsible, I am the most responsible person, sometimes to a fault. And sometimes I look at other people who are not responsible and I'm like, what would it be like to live like that?
Oh my gosh, right?
Right?
How freeing would that be?
So, when I read this, I was expecting the word responsible to reflect a lot of my viewpoints too as a pet parent. And there was no conversation about training techniques.
No. They talked about
Discipline?
training, but not techniques.
No,
Yeah.
not specifics, not
Right.
not consent-based care. That was not in there.
Mm-mm. No.
There was no doing the best you can, providing, the best that you can within your budget. There was nothing like that. It was just like this
Yeah.
very big kind of like black and white. If you do this, you're a good pet parent. If you don't do this, you're a bad pet parent. And like, it's so much more complex to me. And I know to you as well, Jessica. So let's start by just saying what we're talking about specifically. So this is by Forbes Advisor. And it was written by a contributor, Cassidy Horton, and edited or a fact checked by Kelly Ann Smith. This was published around early January. The last update is January 5th, 2024. And there are commission links in here. So take that for what it's worth. But basically, this article or this research, this takeaway comes from a research that was done by Forbes Advisor. It was a survey, so it's not even research really. It's a survey of 10,000 dog owners with 200 surveyed in each state to analyze which states have the most conscientious pet parents. And again, that word conscientious leads me in a totally different direction than this. So
yeah,
here goes. So nearly half of dog owners, 45%, take their pets to the veterinarian more than once a year for checkups. And 43% of dog owners take their pup to the vet at least once per year. Most dogs, 84%, are up to date on their vaccinations, according to their owners. So first of all, this was not a survey of veterinarians with their actual records. This was the owner, and we take what they're saying as fact. So if somebody asks me, are my dogs up to date on their vaccinations? My answer would be absolutely yes. But it's the vaccinations that I do for my pets. So really, you can't ask that question without a caveat, like asking which ones, how often, when was the last one, what was the dose, et cetera, without really knowing. So I think there's a lot of incomplete information here too. But again, responsible pet parenting, and just based on how often you take your dog to the vet and how many vaccines they get every year, that is an oversimplification at best.
It is. And what was interesting to me, in the very first paragraph, they talked about a nutritious diet, but then I didn't see anything more.
Yeah,
about
because
diet.
What is nutritious? Yeah, like what, according to whom?
Right. Because that's where my head always goes, is to diet.
Yeah, I know. No, it went there too with me. And I'm like, okay, so who decides what is nutritious? Like, is Mars sponsoring this? Because then they're going to decide what's nutritious. Is the AVMA, who is often sponsored by Mars and Nestle and all that, are they the ones behind this? Because then they're going to say that kibble is the nutritious diet. Yeah. So depends on who you ask. If you ask the veterinarians that we know and trust and love, like, they might have, even within that group, different definitions of what nutritious diets mean.
Right. Yes, because there's another post going around, because, of course, Dr. Lisa Freeman, if y'all watched BC and I last week, we talked quite a bit about Dr. Lisa Freeman, but she's back telling pet parents and veterinarians not to read the ingredient label. That is not important. do not even look at the ingredient label. So to a certain sect of veterinarians, there's a huge gap in even what is nutritious to a dog.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And then they rank it by state. So what made me actually listen closest to this is that, where was Texas? Texas was like on the top.
It's like halfway down, isn't it? It's 1, 2,
Let's
3.
see. Texas pet parents were
7.
Out of 50 states, Texas was number 7.
No.
Jessica and I are both currently in Texas.
Perplexed.
We both live in Texas.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Texas?
Almost 3 years.
I've been in Texas 7 years in May.
7. Okay.
And so we're not from Texas.
No.
And she's in the Austin area. I'm in the El Paso area. There's about 10 hours of driving between us. So we're in completely different regions of the state. But I think we can both agree that Texas pet parents, Texas animal advocacy, Texas animal rescue, Texas shelters, all leave something to be desired. It is very difficult to see so many pets abandoned, so many shelters overcrowded, shelters not doing intake anymore. Just, people not vaccinating, people not spaying, neutering ever, not just based on, what their veterinarian or their breed recommends. It's just not because of some kind of, cultural or, whatever cultural fog, let's call it that. So there's a lot of work to be done in Texas as far as pet parenting responsibility, public service for pets, public service for abandoned pets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you tell me that Texas is number 7 on the list of 50 states for the best or most, let's say, most responsible pet parents, I have to laugh. I just have to laugh.
Yes. And the reality is, I think, everybody thinks it's bad wherever they live, but the South, especially the Southeast, has to be in the United States, has to be the worst, right?
Right.
And Florida and Georgia are on the list, 4 and 5.
And I'm from Miami, and I will tell you that Miami has a huge problem with cultural fog surrounding spay and neuter, and why we have a completely out of control animal population down in Miami too. So I will say that when you tell me that Texas and Florida and Georgia are at the top, I'm shocked. I'm not surprised not to see Louisiana on the list, because I lived in Louisiana, and Louisiana and Texas, to me, when it comes to pet parents, I don't see much difference. I think it's pretty equal. And obviously, yes, I don't think that Texas does any better than Louisiana. And when it comes to pet parenting, and when it comes to, and I'm talking from living in these places and speaking to veterinarians, them sharing their concerns. I've even been involved with animal advocates here in El Paso. We've gone to city council to speak out on things that we didn't like about what the animal shelter is doing here. It was closed for too long. We had opinions and we shared them. So this is not me just being oh, I see my neighbor is not good. No, I ran a business in Northern Virginia for 12 years where most pet parents were super responsible. If you ever saw a dog loose on the street in Northern Virginia, you would say, oh, somebody's dog got out by mistake. Right. That dog is not supposed to be out. When I lived in Louisiana, you saw a dog, and at first I would care. And then I was like, oh, you meant to leave this dog out all day? Oh, okay, got it. Or, in El Paso, when I started, walking my dogs around my neighborhood, your dog just jumps the fence and you just wait until they come to the front door to be let back in. Oh, okay. That's just how you do. Okay. Dogs barking all day long because they've been left outside all day. That's not something I would see at all in Northern Virginia. And as a dog walker, I can tell you that I was in neighborhoods during the day when nobody else was there. And I never, ever heard dogs barking as much as I hear now. I've never seen dogs get loose, dog bites. I went to the emergency vet with Van Gogh when we first got him, and there were 6 dog bites, urgent emergency dog bites at the emergency vet here.
Wow.
One night.
Well, and that's such a stark difference from Southern Virginia, which is horrible. I mean, the way
It's the
you
South.
describe Louisiana, that's how it was where I
Yes.
grew up in Southern Virginia,
Yes.
where there are dogs out everywhere all the time, and they don't live in the house, generally speaking. And this isn't true across the board, but I mean, hunting dogs live in kennels outside. Like,
Right.
it's just not the same way of life.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, for
That
sure. For sure.
our pets experience.
Yeah. So let me see. So let's go through the top states. Washington State is number one. The reason they're number one is because the percentage of dogs that have a location device is 83%. I am a huge fan of microchipping. I am a huge fan of people that, they don't have to get their dogs microchipped. Most of us, when we adopt, our dogs and cats come microchipped. Like, all my pets have come microchipped because I adopt them from the shelter, and that's what they do now. But I always love when I see people who buy pets, who have the choice, going and doing that, because I truly believe that is the best way to get your dog home or your cat home if ever they are lost. So I'm huge on microchipping. Percentage of dog owners who take their pets to training classes in Washington is 53%. Again, education, so important. Training, so important. But did they dig into what kind of classes or what kind of training? Are we shocking these dogs? Because that, to me, is not responsible. So that, again, it's like, I don't get enough information for this, for you to like rank people. I assume Washington may have, I know a few dog trainers in Washington that are all positive based, but like, I'm sure they have aversive trainers out there, and I'm sure they have techniques that I would not approve of personally. So we don't know. Percentage of dog owners who brush their dog's teeth at least once a week. This is the kind of stuff I want to know.
Yeah.
62%.
Yes, right.
62% of the dogs that whose parents were interviewed for this. So 200 pet parents in Washington were interviewed for this. I don't know where they got these people. Maybe they went to like the most expensive area where they have like the most amazing pet stores that teach you all these things, where these people are feeding the best food. And then, of course, the dog has like a nanny who brushes his teeth. I don't know, right? Like, we don't know.
But I do wonder what they consider brushing your dog's teeth, because there's really good marketing on dental chews that say like, oh, this is brushing your dog's teeth. So I mean, there's so many holes in
exactly. I hope not. I hope that as somebody who writes for a living, I hope that brush their dog's teeth was clear for these people. I'm going to assume that, but you're right. Like, it doesn't ask like whether they go get their dog's teeth like professionally, like at a veterinarian, cleaned once a year. But this does say that 62% of them brush their dog's teeth. And actually only 5% of these 200 dog owners that were interviewed reported never brushing their dog's teeth. So 95% at some point brush their dog's teeth. I will tell you this right now. I have never brushed Kira's teeth. Never once. Not once. She was not my dog when we got her. She is very anxious, very nervous. I take her to get an annual teeth cleaning. I do not touch her teeth, because when I go to try to brush her teeth, I tried it a couple times. She clenches so hard, I'm going to lose a finger. I'm not doing it. So the fact that she's done this, I did brush my other dog's teeth, not once a week, that's for sure. So this is impressive. New York comes in second. And New York says because they go to the vet once a year, 96% take their pets. And this is dog owners, first of all.
Yes, it is dog owners.
This is dog owners only. So the fact I know you have opinions on having to see the vet once a year. Go for it. Go off.
I actually think that's a really good thing. I do think that you should be taking your pet in at least once a year, and then as they age, preferably at least twice a year as they're seniors, and get that blood work done and have the veterinarian put their hands on your pet, because as I have learned from talking to a lot of professional groomers, a lot of times these dogs come into the groomers having never been touched for the last month since they were groomed before. So that actually, I do find that to be very, very important. And it's just the annual, you have to poke your dog that I don't agree with.
Okay, so New York, they're microchipped even higher. No, a little lower than Washington. They're about the same when it comes to training classes. Again, we don't know what quality or what methods are being used. And then the percentage of dog owners that give their dog heartworm medication more than once a year is 87%. I mean, preventative care, let's just round that into preventative care. Preventative care is great. Whether or not you need to give heartworm medication the traditional way is, debatable, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other show. But I do feel like this tells me that they are on top of the veterinary care of their pets.
Yeah.
Are these pets getting enrichment? Are these pets being, being cared for with gentle methods? Is there care with consent? Is consent even a part of the equation in any of these things? I don't know. The percentage of dog owners in New York reported never trimming their dog's nails or brushing their dog's teeth, indicating that the health and hygiene of pooches is taken seriously in this state. So they are trimming their dog's nails and they are brushing their teeth. But also they may not be doing it. They could be outsourcing it. I know professional pet sitters that will trim nails and will, brush teeth. So it doesn't say that they did it, but they are somebody's doing it.
Yeah, it's being done. And that is good. Attention, paying that kind of close attention to your pet is a good thing. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Maryland tops the list with Nevada and Wisconsin for the percentage of dogs that are up to date on vaccinations. Well, again, like if you asked me if my pets are up to date on vaccinations, I would say yes. I do not vaccinate according to anybody's schedule but my own and the conversations I have with my pet, and depending on where I live and what risks they are exposed to. That's me. Right. So I 100% always have my dogs vaccinated for rabies. I've always had dogs that have either reactivity or fear aggression. So I do not skip the rabies vaccine, because if they were to bite somebody, that would become a huge problem. So titer testing doesn't meet my requirements for my family's protection. But I only do like puppy vaccines. I don't really do many boosters later in life. If I moved from one state where something's a problem to another state where it's not a problem, I don't do that vaccine again. So I am very specific about what I vaccinate for, but I always have my pets on their schedule. So they're up to date as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, and that goes to show.
Kim's like, yes, preach, girl.
Kim, thank you. But to your point, that just goes to show, like, what are the standards? What does up to date mean? And did they describe to the participants what up to date meant to them? Because they're not stating that in the article at all. So
I'm gonna go all the way to the footnotes and see if we missed anything, but I don't think we did.
Okay.
No, there are no footnotes.
So then why? Yeah. Then how are they getting this in? I still want to know, like, where they found these people, how they found these people, because
we don't know.
If you're going to, like you said, like a bougie neighborhood in Washington, and then what's the bottom of the list? Arizona, which is crazy to me. I don't know, but whatever. And then like the worst of the worst in Arizona, that's not comparable.
Exactly. Agreed. Okay. So this one is this one to me would be a question I would include, is the percentage of dog owners who have visitors who bring dogs over to help socialize their pets. 50%. So your pet has friends. That's great. But again, I have so many follow-up questions. Like, is your pet comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Who are these pets? Like, where did you meet these pets? Who's there to watch for the body language and prevent anything happening before it happens? Like, what was the outcome of these little meetings? Like, I have so many questions because you put this out there that now we're saying that there's a standard that we have to bring dog owners over for play dates so that we can be responsible pet parents. Whereas if you have a reactive dog, a fear aggressive dog, a dog that's not socialized, that is the most irresponsible thing you could ever do to your dog. So really, really concerning, because when somebody reads this, like, oh, I'm doing all these, check, check, check. Oh, I'm not bringing dogs over to help my dog socialize. I'm gonna start doing that. But I have no training. Like, if you have no training, you do not need to be doing that, especially with adult dogs that maybe haven't experienced this before. It's a recipe for disaster.
It absolutely is for certain dogs and more dogs. And
in their home, because it implies that you're bringing them to your house, not a neutral area, not walking with your neighbor's dog down the street, walking side by side. Everybody has their space, blah, blah, blah. It's bring a dog they don't know over to help socialize them.
Yes.
No.
But that also perpetuates this idea that socialization is dog to dog. And there's so 100%. Much more to socialization.
And that every dog needs friends, which is not accurate either.
No, it is not. Not at all.
Okay. So, yes, again, Maryland is very social state. And I bet that this is, I lived in Maryland. I went to the University of Maryland. I bet like this is a lot of like Maryland around the DMV area, because it's very dog friendly. There's a lot of dog parks, like the DMV in general, the DC metro area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. It's very pet friendly. So this makes sense to me. And I do think that those particular dogs may have been used to it just because of a number of dogs in that area, because it's such a densely populated area. The state ranked third in the percentage of dog owners who schedule play dates for their dog with other dogs. That's 34%, which is 9% percentage points above the average state. So yeah, again, if you live in a place where it's like Alexandria, Virginia, super pet friendly, it's one of the service areas that we covered, all of our dogs knew each other. Like I would get clients calling me and be like, can you walk like the 5 dogs that all mingle together all at the same time? And I'm like, no, it would take me an hour just to like pick them all up. Like, how much are you paying for this? So yeah, people are super social with their neighbors and with their pets. So great. But like on my street in Texas, my dog has never come face to face with Freddie. I know him. He's not allowed in my house, and she's not allowed in his house. Yeah. Goldie down the street, Goldie doesn't want to mingle with anybody on this street. I know the dogs. I know them very well. I know Rhino across the street is the sweetest thing. My mom's always giving him treats, and I'm always yelling at her because it's not her dog. She shouldn't be doing that. But I think we have an understanding with his owners that they kind of just look the other way when Auntie Isabel's there, not me, my mom. Yeah. But we don't make our dogs mingle because these dogs have never done that, and they're not used to it. So that forcing my 13-year-old dog to mingle with Rhino would be a danger to both of those dogs, and a danger to all of us who are around there because they're too big, cute, like big, strong, assertive dogs who would be like, who are you and why am I here?
Yeah, that's a very potentially dangerous situation.
All right. Again, Florida apparently schedules play dates, so that makes them great. In Florida, 96% take their dogs to the vet. Great. Florida ranks second worst in the percentage of dog owners that report their dog is up to date on vaccinations, which hurt their overall score. Again.
So this is really interesting to me because they are taking their dog to the veterinarian at least once a year, 96%. But only 53% say their dog is up to date, which to me makes me think okay, whatever area they surveyed in Florida must have some really wonderful integrative veterinarians who are like, yeah, we don't need to be doing this. Or because, I mean, that's just not the average.
Right.
So this scenario in Florida is very interesting to me.
Well, it's probably people like me. Like, I take my dog in when she needs to see somebody, but my vet knows that the only vaccine we do is the rabies, and she doesn't even offer any other. That's the same case we had with my vet in Louisiana and with my vets in Northern Virginia. They just knew, and they trusted me to make the decision. We discussed it. Northern Virginia, they got more things because we did a lot more hiking. Here, we don't really take them hiking, and we don't even treat for fleas and ticks because it's so dry here. We don't need that. So we have those conversations. Like, as a military spouse, I've been able to move a lot and with my pets. And so my care changes based on my location. And in Florida, they might be very well treating for heartworm, but they may be like, I don't need lepto because I live in Coral Gables and there are no deer here. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they may be having those conversations, which to me makes them responsible.
Yeah, right. But they only ranked number 4 because they're not up to date.
It hurt them. But it hurt them. They're 53% compared to 84%.
But I mean, if 96% of them are getting into the vet at least once a year, then obviously it's not like you have a ton of people who are just like yelling and screaming at their veterinarian saying, I'm absolutely not letting you do this to my dog, but I'll be back.
Like, exactly. No. I'll be back every year, but just not for that. Okay, so Vermont, I'm surprised that Florida beat Vermont, to be completely honest with you, because Florida, again, is the South, and I'm
so you skipped Georgia.
Surprised. Did I?
Georgia.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Georgia. I'm sorry, Georgia. I didn't mean to skip you. I was just in the Peach State. I was just in Savannah. It rained every day, but God, is that city pretty. It's such a pretty city. And oh my God, I gained like 10 pounds. Thanks, Flavia Birdie of Equipause Pet Services, for taking me on a tour of food and drinks the whole weekend. I ate and drank so much. It was fantastic. I would not have changed it for the world, but OMG, did I have to, recover from that amazing trip. Okay, so preventative care and hygiene, they ranked really high. So that's really good. And obviously they're talking to pet owners, not the people who are surrendering their pets at the shelter, like systemically, right? Yeah. Georgia ranked 3rd best in the percentage of dog owners that give their pet flea and tick medication more than once a year. I mean, Georgia has a lot of fleas and ticks. Yeah. Like
I still don't like it, but
I mean, look, Titan was on flea and tick preventative when we lived in Northern Virginia. We backed up into like woodlands. So like our backyard was completely wooded. Yeah. I did not ever step foot back there because it was just like fallen leaves, tons. And it was like a fenced yard, but part of it was like not for human use. And because I didn't want to get ticks. I didn't want to get ticks. We had like a pooper scooper come in. I wasn't going back in there. I was diva.
Oh my gosh.
It was very wooded. It was part of our yard. It was very wooded. It was an amazing house. It was really cool that it was in such a densely populated area. But my dog Titan was on flea and tick medication monthly, and he still got Ehrlichia up there. So you know what I mean? So like I get
not how it works.
Yeah. I get the desire to be preventative in these areas where it's so common to get these things.
It's also perpetuating misinformation because, like you just explained, your dog still got Ehrlichia because they still were bitten by a tick because it doesn't prevent bites from fleas and ticks. It waits until the flea or tick bites your dog, and then the poison that is in their bloodstream kills the flea or tick. Right. So you're not preventing tick-borne illnesses. You're just not.
You're preventing ticks from maybe coming over and like taking over. I've had friends who have like flea issues that they can't get under control for months, because like it just turns into this nightmare. And so it does prevent, from having to your house and all that, keeps the numbers down. But there's no way to prevent these diseases completely. And I will say this, it's the 6th best in the dog owners who trim their dog's nails at least once a month. Again, I want to know, are you trimming them or are you having them trimmed? Because I would read that as, no, I don't trim my dog's nails, but
right.
she gets groomed once a month. And so she does get her nails trimmed. I just personally don't do it.
Yeah. Seeing the survey questions would be helpful for people like us.
For us that are like nitpicking it? No.
Yes.
All right. Georgia ranked in the top 10 best states of the percentage of dog owners who brush their dog's teeth. Great. Congratulations, Georgia. That's pretty impressive. It's better than the 0% that happens here in Casa Arada. Vermont, again, I really expected Vermont would have been higher. If I had to like choose, like if this was a gambling game and I had to just be like, these are the top states, Vermont would probably be up at the higher one. Just because I do feel like Vermont is very outdoorsy. Vermont is very pet friendly. I feel like pet parents.
There's a lot of money in Vermont.
Correct. Are more educated on what their pets need, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, having a pet is a luxury, and a lot of people have pets that really can't afford them in certain states, and they don't want to live without them, but their budget doesn't allow for a monthly grooming appointment. Their budget doesn't allow for, twice a year vet visits just for preventative care. So yes, money always comes down to the, and that's what is also a little dangerous about these surveys. Cause it's like, are we asking people of the same socioeconomic level, or are we just making people feel bad when they don't meet those unattainable goals?
Right.
Okay. Vermont. Up to date on vaccinations, 98%. Not surprised there. Percentage of owners who report walking their dog once or more per day, 81%. As a former dog walker, that is what I want to know. As a former dog walker, I want to know that. And again, is it you walking or are you paying somebody to walk your dog? Because again, I don't care how your dog gets walked, get your dog walked. But if you're telling me you're more responsible because you have the money to pay a dog walker,
right?
I'm going to have a hard time with that. Like, I was very blessed to work with people who had the means to pay for a dog walking service every day. And they paid me $8,000 a year. You know what I mean? Just one household.
Yeah.
Which is why that business was so lucrative in Northern Virginia. But that is not the case for most people. I don't have $8,000 right now to pay a dog walker to come twice a day to walk my dog.
Right.
I don't. That's not part of our family's budget.
Yes. But you can even take that a step further and say, your dog is getting enrichment. They're getting exercise. They're getting, interesting experiences because somebody else is coming and taking them for a walk. But also, that's a bonding experience that you're missing with your dog. So, you could look at that.
Are you the responsible one just because you're paying for somebody to do it? I mean, you're the one with the means to do that, which is great. Your dog's needs are being met, but it's not something. But I mean, I guess we can also just assume that Vermont, because they're so outdoorsy and they are a pretty active lifestyle state, maybe they are walking their dogs. And if that is the case, where they're prioritizing their own health, their dog's own health, they're bonding together. I mean, that is truly, to me, one of the top things I do as a responsible pet parent is make time to walk Kira every single day, whether I like it or not, whether it's 10 minutes or 30, she gets her walks, because that to me is the most important thing from her perspective.
Yes,
and absolutely. So that makes me responsible. But if I had like a tiny Yorkie who did not want to go walking and I forced the dog to go walking every day for 30 minutes, that would not be responsible.
Yeah, that's excessive for.
Or if I had a puppy whose bones aren't fused and I'm like running that dog because I want to be active and forcing a dog to do something that they're not biologically prepared for, then that's not responsible either. So again, when you're just saying like, oh, do you walk your dog? You're not asking the age, you're not asking the distance, you're not asking the time that you spend. You're not asking whether or not your dog wants that. You're not asking the frequency of like once or more a day. Is it weekdays? Is it 7 days? Like, I want to know more. right? Because I don't think that most people are walking their dogs 7 days a week. I think most people, even with dog walkers, are doing like 4 to 5 days a week, maybe 3 days or 2 if your budget only allows for that much. But it's still good. So we can't hold people to the 7-day-a-week standard, because then people just don't want to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to be like, well, I can't do 7 days a week. I won't do 2.
So I'm not going to, right. Yeah.
Okay, last one about Vermont. Last thing about Vermont, checkups again, location device again, and scheduling play dates, which we all know how I feel about that. Just random play date. I don't even take my kids to random play dates just to socialize them. And they understand, and they understand what a play date is.
Right.
So let's finish with Texas. Texas dog owners. With the location devices, the training classes, I can tell you right now that in El Paso, there's only one positive-based dog trainer in El Paso, one. So when you tell me that Texas pet owners are taking their dogs to training classes, unless it's in like a Petco where they use primarily, I think they're only positive-based.
So.
PetSmart, I have heard.
Yeah,
it gets muddy there because it depends on who the trainer is. But when I did look into their training now, they are positive based. I just don't believe that they've always been that way. And they do sell shock and choke collars. So again, like you have to wonder like what they're saying outside of that curriculum. So when you tell me that like people in El Paso are taking their dogs to training classes locally, I'm like,
yeah, I know.
I just had a local friend tell me that he wants to introduce me to a couple who's dog trainers here. And I was like,
no, I know. And I see more and more dogs.
I don't know what to, I don't know.
I see more.
I don't want to be like.
I know, right? I see more and more dogs lately with either a prong collar or an electric collar with that huge cover that looks like a regular flat collar, and that drives me up the freaking wall. It's like, enough to know that you need to hide that. Why are you hiding that? Now, I think we talked about this before, and you were like, maybe there could be that element of the dog looks dangerous to other people. But I think that is a much smaller percentage.
No, but that still backs up your thing. The dog is so dangerous, you have to shock him into submission. So I'm going to cover that so that my neighbors don't think a dangerous dog lives here.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to cover it so my neighbors don't judge me.
Right.
Either way.
You're right. Yeah.
Either way you slice it. No.
It drives me up the wall.
There are better ways, and you can come for me if you'd like. I mean, people have done it many times. I just shared something about how like I would never use those, and I had to turn off commenting because it was just like, I think that like the balance trainer friends like all kind of were like telling each other to come comment, and I was just like, I'm on spring break. I'm not going to allow you to like boast about all the benefits of shock and prong collars without regulation here on my personal Facebook page. So I'm just going to turn off comments because that needs to be like moderated, because I don't want people coming to my page and getting misinformation. Shock and prong collars and choke collars are not something I support in any way, shape, or form. I have personal experience. We talked about it on your show when we did that, when you interviewed me.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to hear my perspective, Jessica literally interviewed me, and she was like, I didn't even know you had this stance. This was when we first kind of got to know each other. Yeah. And I was like, absolutely never would use that again. And it's because of a personal experience that I had with my dog's socks. So yeah, dog training methods are such an important part of like the responsible pet ownership. Texas, again, they're up to date, ranking number 10 in the country. But again, I want to say something about Texas specifically here. Most Texas pet owners do not register their pets.
Yes.
That's the first thing.
But the state is so freaking huge also. Like, in any of these states, I don't feel like 200 people are representative of the population. So, I mean, a very diverse population depending on where you go. But Texas is so huge that,
maybe,
you know what? if you're surveying 200 people in Austin, yeah, you're probably going to get these results, right?
Wait.
But
It's true. Remember when we were just in Dallas together, you and I?
yes.
And we went on a ghost tour, and the second we get there, we see not ghosts, stray dogs.
Stray dogs.
And no hate on
the mortified,
because he is not there. He's there to scare us, not to like pick up stray dogs.
Yeah.
No hate on him whatsoever. But he was like, oh, is it a German Shepherd? They're here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So, and also, you know, when you can't really even find out what the percentage of dogs that live in this state are vaccinated outside of this 200 people, wherever they chose them, because most Texas pet owners, and I think this happens in a lot of states, aren't registering their pets with the city. So the people who are registering their pets with the city already represent a more responsible pet parent. Maybe not to my standards, but they're I know I don't either, because I honestly, it's been a crazy few years and I haven't registered them, and now she's 13 and I'm going to go through this trouble, and I don't even know how much longer she's been here, and my you know, their rabies certs are registered and all that. So I mean, if I need to do it, I'll do it, but I just haven't prioritized that. But when you think about that, you would need to have 100% compliance on registration, and then like some kind of tally about how many of all of those were vaccinated and what vaccines we're looking at. So like, this is just an arbitrary number. I could have come up with this number off the top of my head.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, based on the 200 people I know in Texas.
Right. Right. Just based on the people I've talked to in my neighborhood, this is not accurate.
Exactly. So last one for Texas, they brush their teeth once a week, 50%. I call bullshit.
No way.
Excuse my language. I call bullshit.
Yeah, no way.
And again, we do these surveys, and we of course expect people to be honest, but like, people are going to be like, nah, sure. I try. Like, I put the toothbrush on a tooth every Monday. I try.
I think out of all of the statistics, the teeth brushing is the one that is the least believable. I don't care what state we're talking about. It is the least believable to me, because it is such a new, like relatively new thing that people are even talking about doing with their pets. And I think they're only even talking about it because there are so many dental chews out there. And again, that makes me wonder, like, how many people are considering giving their dog a greenies brushing their teeth? Like, I want to know that.
Initially, when I saw the results of like New York, and I was like, no, for sure they understood the question. But now that I am looking at Texas, and people are saying that 50% of dog owners in Texas brush their dog's teeth. One, they're paying their pet sitter to do it in Austin because they have excellent pet sitting services there, and they have, you know, all these upgrades to your service where they come in and walk your dog, brush their teeth, and, you know, you pay an extra $20, whatever. Or they just gave a greenie. They definitely, like, it's not both. It can't be. Okay, but I want to give a little bit of we only have like 10 minutes left. Let's talk about the least responsible. And this is super offensive to me, and I'm not even from Arizona. Arizona is home to the least responsible dog owners in America.
Yeah. I don't even believe that.
I don't either.
Because I feel like, again, depending on what parts of the states you're surveying in, you got a bunch of retirees in Florida, you got a bunch of retirees in Arizona. How are they so different?
Correct. And honestly, I was just in Santa Fe. And so Santa Fe is an affluent area with lots of dogs. And those dogs, if you ask 200 people that live in downtown Santa Fe, those dogs are super well cared for. So it depends on who you're asking. Worst in dental hygiene and preventative care. They never brush their dog's teeth, 24%. I'm sitting here right there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't brush my dog's teeth. It doesn't make me a totally terrible pet parent. The worst in the percentage of dog owners that never give flea and tick medication. It's the desert.
It is. I know. Why would you even do that? Why would you even do that?
Listen, when we first moved to El Paso, I'd lived in Florida, DC, Louisiana, okay, and Europe. I didn't have pets in Europe, but I've had pets in Miami, I've had pets in the DC area, and I've had pets in Louisiana. And all of them were always on preventatives for heartworm and for flea and tick, because they're such humid areas. They're, especially Northern Virginia, I would go for a walk myself, no pets, and I would come back with a tick on me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how
the wooded areas
tick infested certain areas are. And Alexandria, Virginia is a super populated area. It just is perfectly conducive to that, that pest thriving.
Right.
So we moved here, and I had the natural sprays for flea and tick because I had already transitioned to something healthier. I had the flea and the heartworm medication. I had a million things that I was to continue. And then I looked around and I was like, why? So what I did was I actually gave a bunch of like the heartworm stuff that we don't use to our vets. Like, I was like, I'm not going to use this. So like, I'm not going to keep up with it. The risk is not there. We treat for mosquitoes just because we do have trees in our backyard, like one of the only trees in the desert. So they do come, and we have to treat for mosquitoes externally. So like to protect ourselves. My kids have reactions to them. I have reactions to them. So I am totally cool with people saying like, I don't need this based on my lifestyle, based on my region. And so you're looking at Arizona and holding them responsible for not giving their pet something that they potentially don't need.
They don't. Right.
It's the desert. Okay. And then last one, they don't take their checks. They don't take their dogs as often to the vet. So 83%, which is 5% lower than a study average of 88%. Like, that doesn't make you a bad pet owner that you're going less often. And again, I personally feel like there are people who don't take their pets to the vet because they've had experiences with vets that left a lot to be desired, where they don't feel comfortable telling their vets what they are and are not doing. So maybe they have a virtual vet. Maybe they have, like an acupuncture practitioner or some kind of pet Reiki person that they see in addition to that online vet. Maybe they don't see the need because their pet is terrified of the vet and they maybe only go twice a year. So like, to me, that once a year thing is great. I take my dog once a year because she gets all of her like blood work done, and she's 13 and she only goes once a year. She gets her blood work done. She gets her dental 2 weeks later after the blood work comes back clear. So she technically goes back twice, but really for the vet appointment, it's once because she's going for a treatment after that. But I don't feel like if I went every year and a half, I would be a bad pet owner. For her, because I don't brush her teeth, I do need to take her every year because her teeth get nasty. But let's say that you are super on top of all of your pet care. Let's say you're brushing your dog's teeth. Let's say you're feeding them the best food that you can afford. You're giving them stuff that their teeth don't look desperately bad, and you are staying on top of it. And you did have somebody that you speak to who's not in your city. Like, I don't have any holistic vets here. So if I wanted to have like an integrative vet or something like that, I'd have to do virtual. But that doesn't, on the contrary, that makes me even more responsible to me, because that's expense that, most people are not shelling out for, an integrative vet.
But it is very different for every animal, for, again, where you live. Like in San Diego, I did only get Kim her checkups annually. Here, I get her checkups every 6 months, just because I want to make sure I'm testing her for heartworm every 6 months, because I choose not to give her heartworm preventatives in Central Texas.
Got it.
But I do other things, more natural things, to help prevent fleas and ticks and mosquitoes from even wanting to bite her, which, that's a whole other thing. But I do, it totally depends. Absolutely. And then if you take into account, a lot of people won't take younger animals in annually because they are so healthy and vibrant, and they just don't feel the need.
Yeah. And I do think that if there were more fear-free vets, if there were more vets that people felt like really prioritized how their pet felt. And I love vets, so I'm not saying that they don't, but like I've seen veterinarians do the old school thing where they were going to take the dog from you because they get, you know, we're going to basically like hold them down and like give them their shot back there. Whereas like a fear-free vet would just, you know, have stuff in line before. So if I had a puppy and I had a fear-free vet, I would definitely take them every 6 months. And I would, you know, so that they can get used to that experience and it could be a positive association. But if my pet's going to just go like cats, this is about dogs, but let's talk about cats. Like people don't take their cats to the vet because the cat gets super stressed and the cat's super scared of it. I have a friend who lost a bird because they couldn't find a bird vet to come to the house, and she was sick. They took her to the vet. She died in the car from the stress of being moved around like that. So like, again, there are options in a lot of areas. I don't have a home vet now here because she stopped doing that. My vet now used to come to our house. Now that we only have one dog, one cat, she doesn't come. She came when we had 4 because it was easier to do everybody at the same time. But now she's kind of cutting back on that. There's a vet shortage. She can't leave. That time in transit really affects her ability to see all the people who need to see her, all the pets who need to see her. So like if you have all these options of an in-home vet, and your dog is scared, amazing. But I don't have that.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to bring up too, the veterinary shortage. And if you can't get into the vet, like they're not taking that into account either. No. You know, if you call the vet and they're like, we can get you in 3 or 4 months, then, you know, there's nothing wrong with your animal. You may go, you may make that appointment in 4 months.
Or you'll wait to the emergency vet when you know, you'll wait and see, and then you'll go to the emergency vet because that's pretty much like the better option. The bad ones, I'm just going to say their names. We're not going to go into them, but Idaho came in second of the worst. Oklahoma is the 3rd worst. Kentucky, 4th worst. And New Mexico is 5th worst. Again, who did they ask?
Right.
Who did they ask? I've been to all over the Southwest, and let me tell you, if I was going to come back as a dog in my future life, it would be somewhere in the Southwest. Like I said, Santa Fe, New Mexico, amazing pet parents. Scottsdale, like you see the dogs walking around, super happy, super socialized. They're downtown Scottsdale. Obviously, these are affluent areas where people live amazing lives, and their pets get to enjoy that as well. But yeah, who are you asking? What city are you asking? Are you asking in Las Cruces, New Mexico, where it's like pretty rural? It's like right here. I know Las Cruces really well because we go there all the time. But like there's no like downtown area where you would take your dogs. It's not super populated, so dogs are not super social. People are not going to take their dogs to play dates in Las Cruces, but maybe in Santa Fe they would. So, you know, it just depends. It just totally depends on where it is that you're asking.
Yeah. But you know what, also something they didn't mention at all is if you have a multi-dog household, you might not even consider play dates. If you have 4 or 5 dogs in your house,
why would you need them?
Yeah. So
your dog lives with 4 dogs. He's fine. He's happy. Yeah. He's got his squad.
Yeah.
He doesn't need anybody else. I mean,
there's just so many holes in this. And I think that's why it makes you so upset as well. Like you're out here putting a ton of effort into putting something out for, you know, the public to read so that they feel bad about themselves. And really it's to get click-throughs to buy insurance through an affiliate link. I mean, that's, you know, if you really look at it, that's why they're writing this blog. But
well, I feel like we should wrap this up with you giving me your top 3 criteria that make people a good pet owner. And we'll do cats and dogs. Top 3 criteria. In your opinion.
In my opinion. So
and we did not plan this, so I always put her on the hot seat.
I know. Well, I would say number 1, regardless if it's a dog or a cat, is like attention. time. Spending time with your pet. That's going to probably be my number one.
I would call that meeting their emotional needs.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I agree. That's definitely number one.
And I mean, I guess if you can like wrap up basic hygiene and care, right? Like you don't want them sitting around in urine or feces or,
oh my gosh,
getting mats in their hair, like basic. You don't have to take them to the groomers and spend a ton of money every month, but just basic care.
Yeah.
And I think that can be like, again, both for dogs and cats, but even I struggle with my cats with that sometimes. They don't want me to trim their nails, and I really, really struggle with it. And I try and I try and I try. And sometimes they're getting one nail trimmed a night. Like, it's tough. Yeah. So I get that, but like that would be the second one. It's just, basic hygiene and care. And, oh goodness, what do I want to say for number 3? I don't know what I want to say for number 3.
Well, let me give you a second to think about number 3. For me, okay, it's definitely meeting their emotional needs first. And by emotional needs, I also mean like their enrichment, their biologically appropriate behaviors, like taking them for a walk, because that's something that they need. Then second, I'll roll into like physical needs, meeting their physical needs, which yes, exercise, nutrition, grooming, those kinds of things are really important to me. I feel like veterinary care, preventative veterinary care, when you prioritize their emotional needs and their physical needs, you're already doing that. You're already being preventative, and not with like a medicine or a vaccine, but just like with those holistic like care tasks that you take care of. And then third, it would be care with consent, like taking their input into consideration. And when I say care with consent, I'm referring to the physical, emotional, the cuddling. If they don't want to cuddle, don't force them to. If they don't want to go for a walk, they don't want to eat this morning, don't force it. Like listening to them, letting them have an input into where you go, how you go, what you do, preparing them for stressful situations, considering their feelings when you're moving, when you're traveling, when you're having a pet sitter come over, finding the best pet sitter, all those care with consent, physical needs and emotional needs taken care of, you're good. Like you're good.
Yeah.
And you could never, ever take your pet to the vet, and I would still think you were a responsible pet parent.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I've seen this because, listen, I was born in Latin America. I was not born in the US. I've seen pet parenting outside the US, and some people do not ever take their pets to the vet. And those pets are still super happy, and those pets are still super well cared for. And they eat, lentejas and, some kind of beef every night, and they're happy. And maybe it's not like what we would consider optimum, but the pet's needs are being met. The pet is being cared for properly. Like that's not the norm. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people in Latin America who are just, a pet is disposable. A pet lives outside. A pet's not allowed inside. But I've also seen we've seen these dogs all over the world that are like family, and that they're being taken care of, and they would not meet any of these criteria at all.
I would absolutely agree with that. They really don't need that much. I think we have this really warped view of what a good pet parent is. And so much of it is wrapped up in marketing and just getting as much money out of your pockets. And I hate to say that, because a lot of these things do wind up being necessary because of what we've done to our pets with, the diets we feed them, and not letting them live a natural life. And I'm guilty of that too. My dog lives indoors with me. She doesn't live outside. It's not a natural life, but, there are consequences to that, and just being aware and trying to accommodate as best you can. If you live in a high rise in New York or LA, then how often is your dog actually getting outside? You have to compensate for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And if you're still finding a way to meet their emotional needs, and if you're still finding a way to meet their physical needs, and if you're still giving them some kind of autonomy, obviously they can't speak.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously
Yeah.
they can't complain. Obviously
Yeah.
they are, they're not able to like a child be like, I don't want to go to the doctor, or I don't want to do this, right? My kids are very good about sharing their lack of consent for things because we've taught them about consent. But they do tell us in their own ways. Our pets do tell us, and listening to them, at least taking what they feel into consideration, is key to their enjoyment of life, to feeling like they are an autonomous creature that matters.
And I mean, I guess to even take that a step further, because some people can look at that and say, well, my dog hates getting in the car, so I'm never going to take them to the park or to the vet or whatever. If you use positive reinforcement training to change the association that they have, it may take time.
Yes.
But you can help them overcome some of these things, because we can't just say, oh, I'm never ever, like,
right,
your dog has an infected tooth, but you're not taking them to the vet because they hate going to the vet. Like, that's not right.
No, it's you're right. Because when it comes to gentle parenting, and that's something as a parent that I strive for, and people are like, gentle parents are permissive. No, that's a misinterpretation of that philosophy, right? Like what we're saying is, make it easier on teach, but teach in a way that is conducive to learning and that is conducive to the biology of the creature you're teaching, right? We're not saying never take your dog to the vet, because they're not going to consent to go willingly. We're not saying don't give them the eye drop they need for conjunctivitis because they don't like it. We're not saying that. We're saying make it so that it is cooperative, collaborative, caring, loving care, and not forceful, I dominate you to get these eye drops in your eyes kind of care. And, sometimes as a parent, I find myself in those exact predicaments. And thankfully my kids are older now that I could be like, your eye's going to fall out. And they're like, fine.
Right. Yeah. They don't understand that when they're 2.
No, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that if anybody leaves this conversation with anything today, is that your pet best. And if you feel like you're meeting their needs and you're doing the best you can for them, that makes you, in our opinion, an excellent pet parent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, regardless of, what you can afford to do, what you can't afford to do, if you're doing your best, you're doing your best. And that animal is probably, if you're doing your best, probably living a better life than they would if they weren't living with you, if they were in a shelter or wherever, on the streets. So it is one of those things, like, don't see an article like this and beat yourself up, because
and don't see things like that we share about maybe positive training and care with consent and be like, I'm terrible because last week or last year or 10 years ago, I did XYZ. I'm here to tell you, I made a ton of mistakes with socks. I know where we made the mistakes. I know that we were responsible for a ton of her bad behavior. And then we had to kind of go back, and to fix the behavior, we even, made more mistakes. And, don't feel bad about it. It's all a learning experience. We're all on a journey here. Nobody here is judging you. In fact, the reason we wanted to talk about this is so we can eye roll and be like, is that really the bait? Like, that's it? That's your criteria? That's ridiculous. Like, there's so much more to pet parenting than taking your pet to the vet and brushing their teeth. Like, there's so much more to it. So if you're finding yourself having a hard time being like, I don't brush my dog's teeth, my cat's teeth, I don't, and I still consider myself an excellent pet parent. And I'm not saying don't try, because I'm trying. It was my New Year's resolution, remember? To do better about my pet's dental hygiene. And like, it's March 18th. I still have time.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, what are we talking about next week? Do we know?
I don't know. But I just want to take this moment before we log off to thank the Texas Pet Sitters Conference for inviting me to MC their conference. 3 weeks ago now, and for the National Association of Professional Pet Sitters for having me as their keynote and closing speaker for their conference. Those were 2 conferences back to back. It was such a great experience. I had such a great time. Pet sitters are a truly undervalued part of the pet industry. I am doing all I can to change that, because one of the biggest things I do for my pets as a responsible pet parent is choose an amazing pet sitter to care for them when I can't be here for them, or when my schedule gets crazy. Like when I had a baby, they had dog walks from Kevin, our dog walker. So I think that it's such an honor for me to be invited to participate in this. Having been in the industry professionally before, I consider myself a pet sitting industry advocate now. And lots of love to everybody who was there. If you're joining us and I met you there, thank you so much for your friendship and for your support. And I will hopefully see everybody on the cruise next year for the Texas Pet Sitters Conference. We're all going on a cruise, and I'm trying to get just
yeah, we'll see. We will see. We will talk about it.
All right, everybody. Yeah.
Yes. Have a great week, and we will see you next Monday.
And if you have any recommendations for what you want to discuss, please message me or message Jess and just send us ridiculous articles so we can sit here and roll our eyes about them.
Absolutely.
Or not. Or like preach or like celebrate them if it's a really good article.
If it's a good one, right?
if it's one we agree with.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Bye,
thank you.
See
Have
you
a
next
great
week.
evening.
Bye.
Bye.